service to our country. Special welcome to the Police Chief of Baltimore, Maryland, a city near and dear to my heart. My father and my brother always said in politics and in keeping people safe, always look after them. Well, my father would say the men in blue. My brother would say the men and women in blue, a generation later. And thank you for your service. Your presence here today points out how much our work on Homeland Security has to be about localities, localities, localities. I always say location, location, location are the three most important words in real estate. But localities, 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 I think, are the most important part of protecting our people. So this is valuable testimony that you are giving to us, and I hope that this inquiry has one purpose, but that what Congress does in a bigger picture in terms of Homeland Security, we will take heed of what you are saying about having access to the information and improving the communication. I was interested also, Governor Gilmore, in your testimony about your commission and its valuable work, in which you said what really made your panel special and therefore causes its pronouncement to carry significantly more weight is the contribution from members of the panel from outside of Washington, D.C., that you brought in my fresh eyes on the subject and innovative thinking. Although you had some participation from the establishment, you had fresh eyes, and that's what those of us who've been advocating an independent commission on September 11th have been advocating as well. Congressman Romer has been the leader on that issue, and your testimony is useful in that regard. I wanted to use the first 5 minutes of my time to talk to Mr. Manno about the President's Commission on Aviation Security and Terrorism of years ago. Was it 1989 that this, 1990, May 1990. And in that Commission on Aviation Security and Terrorism, the report makes some pretty stark comments. It says, the Commission's inquiry finds that the U.S. civil aviation security system is seriously flawed and has failed to provide the proper level of protection for the traveling public. This system needs major reform. It further goes on to say, the Commission has conducted a thorough examination of certain civil aviation security requirements, policies, and procedures surrounding Flight 103. This is Pan Am, so this is just that one particular flight. It is a disturbing story and goes on to tell of how that all happened. It recommends a Undersecretary for Intelligence at the Department of Transportation at the FAA. Is that the job that you hold as acting secretary? No, it's a little different, isn't it?
It's the Office of Intelligence and Security that works directly for the Secretary of Transportation. It's a DOT as opposed to, I work for TSA.
Okay, and so you work for TSA. We have FAA, we have TSA now, and we have Department of Transportation. There's some relationship there, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a different job that was established by this commission?
Yes, that office was established to provide support and advice directly to the Secretary on issues of transportation security, not just aviation, but transportation security.
Transportation.
That office was in fact set up.
Okay, now in it, the report that says the FAA, and one of the recommendations says the FAA and the Federal Bureau of Investigation should proceed with plans to conduct an assessment of the security threat at domestic airports. It is my understanding that these assessments are made on an annual basis.
I think they're made on a 3-year basis.
A 3-year basis.
There were a series of them that were done. The latest iteration, there were some that were done, the latest in 1999, and then some more airports were done in the year 2000. So it's an ongoing process. Is it
your understanding that any of those assessments ever pointed to use of airplanes as weapons as a possible threat to our domestic security?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge. So these assessments would have missed that.
Well, what those assessments do in terms of the threat information that the FBI provides is that they look at the threat environment around the airport that they're looking at in terms of terrorist activity, criminal activity, in order to be able to provide the airport mainly an idea of the environment that they're operating in so that they can then have or develop contingency plans.
Okay, but
to deal with
because I don't have much time, I appreciate that, but it must have reported about the possible threat of hijacking, for example.
I believe that what they report on is the presence of terrorist groups and the kinds of activities that they may be involved in that local area.
So that might be hijacking, but not use of airplanes as weapons.
It could be. I simply am not aware of any that.
Okay.
That
So this
pointed
is
to that.
one place where the Commission called for a recommendation to assess the danger, the risk, where there was possibly missed in these assessments that were being made about the threat to it.
I don't know if there was any information that actually pointed to such.
But so,
the
just tell
scenario
me
that
what
was-
your job is again. You're the intelligence, Undersecretary for Intelligence at
I'm the acting
the acting, okay,
Associate Undersecretary
yeah.
for Intelligence
Yeah,
at TSA.
TSA.
And with TSA taking over aviation security and security for the other modes, we are now responsible for assessing the threat to aviation.
Well, my time has expired. I just want to close by saying I think that I appreciate all the good intentions, and I know that if you read this book, you will weep because it predicts, it tells you what we should have done as far as aviation security is concerned, and it's from 1990, the President's commissioned under Senior President Bush. And it calls for, I think, a more comprehensive, as excellent as the work that Ms. Hill and the Joint Inquiry staff has done, it really speaks to the fact that while we have come down hard in terms of our analysis of what was going on in our country and the role of the FBI and the CIA, there are other agencies which had a responsibility to protect the American people. We must assess their performance as well, and we must do it with fresh eyes if we're truly going to live up to our responsibilities to protect the American people from terrorism. My time has expired, but I look forward to the next round, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.